little slimy island here. Slimy island. It's kind of gross and slimy, but gross and slimy. Well, there we go. Hello and welcome back. Here we are, moving on to section 3 of Vibhūti Pāda. Section 3 of the Yoga Sutras. Sutra 1. Desha bandhash chittasya dhāraṇā. Place, spot, binding, confining, fixing of the mind. Concentration. Concentration is the confining of the mind within a limited mental area or object of concentration. As has been pointed out already, the first 5 angas of yoga eliminate step by step the external causes of mental distraction. Yama and niyama eliminate the disturbances which are caused by uncontrolled emotions and desires. Asana and pranayama eliminate the disturbances arising from the physical body. Pratyahara, by detaching the sense organs from the mind, cuts off the external world and the impressions which it produces on the mind. The mind is thus completely isolated from the external world, and the sadhaka is thus in a position to grapple with it without any interference from outside. It is only under these conditions that the successful practice of dharana and dhyana and samadhi is possible. Although the different angas of yoga appear to be independent of each other, and it may be possible to a certain extent to practice asana, dhyana, etc. independently of other angas, still we have to keep in mind that they have also a consequential relationship, and the effective practice of one anga requires at least a partial mastery of those which precede it. The main reason why the vast majority of aspirants of the yogic life keep struggling with the mind year after year, and then generally give up the effort as a hopeless task, lies in the lack of systematic preparation, without which even the elementary practice of dharana is difficult, very difficult, to say nothing of the further stages of dhyana and samadhi. Theoretically, it is possible for the student to start right away with the mind, and he may succeed in practicing meditation to a certain extent, but he cannot go very far in this manner, and his progress is bound to come to a stop sooner or later. It is only when he has prepared himself in the manner indicated above that he can go on steadily right up to the end. In the rare cases where people have practiced meditation successfully without any other kind of preparation, it will be found that they had already developed the necessary qualifications, even though they did not go through all the practices in this life. It is the possession of the qualifications and not going through the prescribed practices which determines the fitness of the sadhaka for taking up the practice of dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. These qualifications for the yogic life are the cumulative result of several lives of effort in this direction, and one need not go through every practice in a particular life. Some people are born, for example, with a high degree of vairagya, and show, even in their childhood, a remarkable capacity for controlling their vehicles. They have not to go through the long and tedious discipline, which is essential for the ordinary man. Anyway, Patanjali has pointed out unambiguously the necessity of going through the first 5 angas of yoga before taking up the practice of dharana, as for example, in Sutra 253, which we just covered in a previous video, but let me revisit it very quickly. And the fitness of the mind for concentration. Okay. Before dealing with the question of dharana, it is necessary to point out that though the word concentration has to be used for translating dharana, there is a great deal of difference between what an ordinary man means by concentration of mind and what the phrase means in yogic psychology. Without going into details, it may be stated that the main difference And a very fundamental difference is that according to modern psychology, the mind cannot be made to remain fixed on any object for any considerable time. It must remain moving, even when concentration of the highest degree has been attained. Concentration, according to this view, is the controlled movement of the mind within a limited sphere, and by keeping the mind confined in this manner, all the remarkable results of concentrated mental effort can be obtained. But according to Eastern psychology, upon which the science of yoga is based, though concentration begins with the controlled movement of the mind, it can reach a state in which all movement or change stops. In this ultimate stage, the mind becomes one with the essential nature of the object concentrated upon and can thus move no further. Eastern psychology recognizes the uses of the ordinary type of concentration, but it holds that there are two limitations in this kind of concentration. One is that the mind can never fully realize the essential nature of the object concentrated upon. However deep it may penetrate, it still touches only the fringe or superficial aspects of its nature and can never reach the core. The second limitation is that with this kind of concentration, consciousness always remains confined within the prison house of the intellect. It cannot be released from the limitations of the intellect to be able to function at the deeper levels through the subtler vehicles. For to be able to jump from one plane to another, the mind must be brought first to that condition in which it is without movement, though shining with the object which holds the field of consciousness. We talked about that early on in section 1. This point has been elaborated elsewhere, and we need not go further into it here. Let us now come to the particular stage of concentration dealt with in this sutra. In dharana, as this first stage is called, the mind is confined within a limited sphere defined by the object which is being concentrated upon. The phrase desha bandha means confinement within a territory which allows a limited freedom of movement. The mind is interned, as it were, within the limited mental territory and has to be brought back immediately if it strays out. The reason why a limited freedom of movement is possible when the mind is being concentrated upon a particular object will be seen if we remember that every object has innumerable aspects, and the mind can consider these aspects only one by one, so that while it takes up one aspect after another, it is moving and yet really fixed on the object of concentration. Or it may be that the object may involve a process of reasoning consisting of many steps connected logically with one another and forming an integrated whole. Here also, there can be movement without really leaving the object of concentration. I used to sit in meditation and I would contemplate a topic, and I would start out like with a question or with an idea, and each thought was its own object of concentration, but it led to the next thought, which took me deeper into that object. So I think that's what he's referring to here. I also used to write poetry like that when I was sitting in meditation, and each line, it was like, had its own, like, zing, it was shining. Until you've experienced it, like, you don't really realize, and then you don't really realize until you read something, and they're like, oh yeah, I had that experience where each line of the poem came forth in a way where it really shined and took up the whole field of my attention before the next line came to replace it, which is interesting. Okay, here also there can be movement without really leaving the object of concentration. It is only when the mind gets out of touch with the object and an unconnected and irrelevant object enters it that dharana may be considered to be broken. The main work in dharana therefore consists in keeping the mind continuously engaged in the consideration of the object and to bring it back immediately as soon as the connection is broken. The object which the sadhaka should place before himself is to reduce progressively the frequency of such interruptions and to eliminate them completely ultimately. But it is not only the elimination of interruptions which has to be aimed at, but complete focusing of the mind on the object. Vague and blurred impressions should be replaced by sharply defined mental images by increasing the degree of alertness and power of attention. So the condition of the mind during the period when it is engaged with the object is as important as the frequency of the interruptions which break the connection. But as the nature of this stage of concentration is generally understood, we need not elaborate this point further. All right, let's move on to number 2. And it's not that long, so we'll do the next one and then we'll stop for today. Sutra 2, Section 3, Vibhūti Pāda. Tatra pratyaye katanata dhyanam tatra pratyaye katanata. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Pratyaye katanata dhyanam. There, in that place, content of consciousness, stretching or streaming unbrokenly as one, meditation, contemplation. Uninterrupted flow of the mind toward the object chosen for meditation is contemplation. It was pointed out in the previous sutra that the sadhaka should aim at eliminating the intruding thoughts, which are called distractions, and should see that such interruptions are reduced in frequency in a progressive manner. When he succeeds in eliminating the distractions completely and can continue the concentration on the object without any interruptions for as long as he decides to do so, he reaches the stage of dhyāna. It will be seen, therefore, that it is the occasional appearance of distractions in the mind which constitutes the essential difference between dhārana and dhyāna. Since this sutra is very important from the practical point of view, let us first examine the significance of the various Sanskrit words used in defining dhyāna. First, let us take the word pratyaya, which is used frequently in the Yoga Sutras. This word covers a wide range of notions, such as concept, idea, cause, etc. But in yogic terminology, it is generally used for the total content of the mind, which occupies the field of consciousness at a particular time. As the mind is capable of holding a large variety of objects simultaneously, a word has to be used to denote all these objects taken together irrespective of their nature. Pratyaya is a technical word for this total content of the mind. In view of what has been said above about dharana, it will be seen that this pratyaya, with which the mind remains in continuous contact in dhyāna, is fixed and yet a variable thing. It is fixed in the sense that the area within which the mind moves is defined and remains the same. It is variable because within that limited area or sphere, there is movement, which is what I was just talking about with writing poetry or having an object of contemplation where you're contemplating it deeper and deeper at each stage, right? A few illustrations will make this point clear. When a scientist focuses his microscope on a drop of dirty water, the field of vision is defined and limited within a circle, and he cannot see anything outside it. But within that circular patch of light, there are constant movements of all kinds. Or, take a river which is flowing within well-defined banks. There is constant movement of the water, and yet this movement is confined within the banks of the river. A person who looks at a river from an airplane sees a thing which is fixed and moving at the same time. These illustrations help us to understand the dual nature of the pratyaya in dhyana and the possibility of keeping the mind moving within the limits defined by the object of meditation. It's the same thing when you're meditating on a mantra, right? Your mind is moving while it's reciting the mantra, but you're focused only on that mantra, right? These illustrations help us to understand the dual nature of the pratyaya in dhyana and the possibility of keeping the mind moving within the limits defined by the object of meditation. The Sanskrit word tatra means in that place, and obviously refers to the desha, or place, or mental territory within which the mind is confined. The mind has to remain united with the pratyaya within the limits defined in dharana. The mind of any person remains united with the pratyaya while he is in waking consciousness. But not only is the pratyaya changing all the time, but the mental territory is also changing because the mind is flitting from one subject to another. Ekatanata, which means extending continuously or unbrokenly, refers to the absence of interruptions from distractions which are present in dharana. In fact, as pointed out above, continuity of the pratyaya is the only thing which distinguishes dharana from dhyana from the technical point of view. This continuity may be compared to the continuity of the flow of water in a river, or that of oil being poured from one vessel into another. Why is it essential to achieve this kind of continuity before samadhi can be practiced? Because every break in the continuity means distraction, and distraction means lack of adequate concentration and grip over the mind. If the mind is diverted from the chosen object, it means that some other object has taken its place, for there must be continuity in the movement of the mind. It is only in nirodha that the continuity of the movement can be broken without any other object occupying the mind. Now, if a distraction breaks the continuity, apparently, there is not much harm done, for the mind can take up the thread immediately and continue with its work of diving deep into the subject. But actually, the appearance of the distraction is not as innocuous as it appears. It shows the absence of sufficient grip over the mind and a corresponding lack in the depth of concentration. In practicing dharana, it is found that as the depth of abstraction increases and the grip over the mind becomes stronger, the frequency with which the distractions appear becomes smaller. So, continuity should be regarded as a gauge for measuring the necessary control over the mind and intensity of concentration. The attainment of dhyana avashta shows that the mind is getting ready for the last stage in the real practice of yoga. Unless and until this condition is fulfilled, the practice of samadhi cannot be begun, and the real secrets of yoga will remain hidden from the sadhaka. All right, so the next one is Sutra 3, the same contemplation when there is consciousness only of the object of meditation and not of itself, the mind, is samadhi. We'll do that one next time. Thank you for joining me today. See you soon. Slimy island. My slimy island. In the middle of my slimy island.